Hey Upper Friday. This week Meta showed off their new smart glasses that look insanely impressive, Samsung showed off a new Ultra-style foldable, and the company might also switch from Gemini to Perplexity. Welcome to the Friday Checkout. This video was sponsored by Brilliant. Okay, for my first story of the week, Meta showed off the Aria Gen 2, and these are smart glasses that are both horrifying and really impressive. This experimental pair first has a regular 12-megapixel RGB camera, and then also 4 so-called CV or computer vision cameras that have insanely high dynamic range. You can see that the light bulb here, for example, is not blown out, while the shadows are still visible. Also, these CV cameras have global shutter, so the entire sensor is read out in one go instead of bit by bit like with usual cameras, which means that there's less distortion and it makes it easier for the computer to understand. And you can see how the 4 overlapping cameras allow for some pretty bonkers spatial mapping in such a thin form factor. Next, there are some cameras on the bottom of the frame that do eye tracking looking inwards, so the glasses know what you're looking at, and that is in addition to hand tracking, which is also done with the computer vision cameras, and also crazily enough, heart rate monitoring too. So basically this is the full monitoring suite. As for microphones, on top of the regular ones, there's also one called a contact microphone, which is built into the nose pads themselves, and I guess this one works with bone conduction to filter out your voice even in some pretty windy environments. Next, there's also built-in radio technology that allows for multiple Aria nearby glasses to sync up so that they can capture and presumably show people wearing them the same stuff simultaneously. I guess this would be especially useful when you're doing some shared activities and both parties could supposedly interact with the same stuff. Now, there are no displays in this version and it's only a research device for now, so you can't actually buy it, but researchers can sign up to test it. And I basically assume that Meta is especially trying to flex some muscles now, right after Google just demoed their smart glasses recently too. Again, I could not imagine a worse company measuring my pupil dilations and my heart rate than Meta, so on the one hand, I really hope that they fail, but on the other, I also think that their stuff is pretty impressive. Okay, and for my second story of the week, it's Ultra time for the Samsung Fold series. Samsung officially put out a new press release titled, quote, "Meet the next chapter of Ultra," and it included a new GIF showing off a slimmer and wider foldable. Fun fact, the file itself is called Galaxy Z Fold 7 Z Flip 7 pretease.gif, so that's a pretty clear sign. Also in the article, they specifically highlighted a powerful camera, which has historically been one of the clear downsides of foldables, and the press release finishes on, quote, "The Ultra experience is ready to unfold." Now, Max Yambor says that there's no specific device that will be called the Galaxy Z7 Fold Ultra. It will just be the regular Fold 7 with an Ultra experience, like the camera from the Ultra and also a slimmer and better design. In fact, in Indonesia, the Fold 7, Flip 7, and Flip 7 FE have already been certified without an Ultra, so I guess this naming scheme makes sense. Will Samsung finally be able to catch up with the Chinese competition who've been beating it in foldable hardware for years? Let's wait and see, but leakers already claim it will come with 16 gigs plus 1 terabyte of memory, and also a new coral red color along with the usual boring ones. Now, one interesting thought that I had is that with the Samsung Galaxy S25 Edge, Samsung specifically hyped the fact that it managed to fit the 200-megapixel camera from the S25 Ultra into a significantly slimmer form factor because it re-engineered the camera module, so I would expect this to carry over to the new Fold as well. And so, while I'm not too hyped about the Edge itself, if that means that Samsung has learned a bunch of things that it can now apply to other devices, then I guess I'm all for it. Okay, and for my third story of the week, it looks like Samsung might be replacing Gemini with Perplexity on their phones. Bloomberg reported that Samsung has neared a wide-ranging deal with Perplexity for AI features. Specifically, they seem to have met in South Korea to potentially preload Perplexity's app and assistant on upcoming Samsung devices like the S26 series, and also to integrate the startup's search features into the Samsung web browser. Motorola has already added Perplexity on the Razr lineup with optimizations, and the AI firm was even present at their launch. Interestingly, Google reportedly blocked Motorola's use of Perplexity AI in 2024, according to a witness who happens to be the CEO himself, so that's pretty funny. Anyway, Motorola ended up doing a basic integration in 2025, and Samsung seems to be doing an even more extensive one next. The report claims that Perplexity could become the default assistant on the Galaxy S26, and there's also talk about building an AI-infused operating system, which sounds pretty ambitious. We also know that Apple too has discussed using Perplexity as an alternative to Google Search, as well as a substitute for ChatGPT, and so there seems to be a whole lot on the line. I wonder if Perplexity actually ends up being any better than Gemini, or if all these companies are just trying to get some negotiating leverage versus Google and then will eventually choose them anyway, but jack up the prices in the meanwhile. I guess as long as we, the users, get a choice and also get the choice to turn things off, I'm all good with either. Now moving on to the release monitor, the Nintendo Switch 2 is finally real and actually also landing with consumers. Meanwhile, a pretty fun looking accessory which I also found was the Belkin charging case, which can not only charge the Switch, but also has a power bank built in. Not bad for about $70. And last in our pretty short release monitor this week is the OnePlus Pad 13, which is now a huge 13.2-inch monster with a nicer IPS LCD display, plus a Snapdragon 8 Elite chip, faster charging, and more. Links to all the release monitor stuff as usual are in the description, and now onto the brief where we start with Apple. The company had their next 45-watt MagSafe charger leaked, which is also set to be the first to support the Qi 2.2 standard. Apparently Qi 2.2 will even include support for up to 50-watt wireless charging, so that's pretty fast. That is a surprisingly big jump from the 15 watts that we currently have with Qi, and it really makes me wonder if there'll be some active cooling like there is in many of the Chinese solutions. Anyway, also this week nothing said that the Phone 3 will arrive on the 1st of July. Remember that this is meant to be a flagship phone this time around, so hopefully something pretty interesting. Meanwhile, next at WWDC, 9to5Mac says that AirPods will get camera controls, sleep detection, new gestures, and more, so things like taking a photo from a connected device by tapping the stem of your earbuds. That to me sounds like it might get in the way of simply controlling your music, which I really like how the Apple AirPods actually handle that, so hopefully not, but let's wait and see. Then in more leaks, Roland Quant has found the first image of the Fairphone 6, which he claims will have some sort of a modular back, and then also said that the phone will cost $549, launching soon. Moving on, OpenAI has slammed a court order that forces it to save all ChatGPT logs, including deleted chats, due to an ongoing copyright case. A judge said that all the text messages, including the ones that you've explicitly asked OpenAI to delete, must be kept as evidence for their ongoing trial, and that is pretty crazy and also potentially a violation of OpenAI's contracts. Anyway, moving on to news that is perhaps a surprise to no one, Shein and Temu have seen US demand plunge on de minimis trade hole loop closure and tariffs. Sensor Tower said that Temu's US daily active users fell 52% in May compared to March, while Shein's dropped 25%. I maintain that people buying less single-use plastic crap that is kept artificially cheap is perhaps the best outcome of the trade war yet. Also this week, Elon and Trump have started falling out. First, Elon called Trump's flagship bill a disgusting abomination. Then Trump said that Elon was wearing thin and that he asked him to leave and took away his EV mandate, plus also that he should terminate Elon's government subsidies and contracts, after which Elon shot back and claimed that Trump was in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. I'm also guessing that there'll be like 7 more insults between me recording this and actually pressing publish, but this looks like a real breakup. Anyway, moving on, Reddit is suing Anthropic for allegedly scraping its data without permission, saying that they caught Anthropic accessing or attempting to access Reddit content via automated bots at least 100,000 times. Fun! Reddit has made official deals with both Google and OpenAI to let their chatbots access their content, so I guess they're not too happy about Anthropic trying to get their hands on the data without actually paying. And next, in more AI licensing fights, giant music companies like Universal and Sony are now negotiating AI licensing rights for their music after various companies trained on their music to try to create their own AI-generated stuff. And moving on, one of the coolest things this week was Volvo introducing the first multi-adaptive seatbelt technology in one of their new cars. This uses data from various sensors to change protection settings during a crash, for example, based on the person's height, weight, body shape, and seating position, as well as the direction and speed of the vehicle. Volvo said that it looked at over 80,000 people, and this looks like engineering that is hopefully doing something very useful. Volvo's solution required everything from advanced sensors to statistics, algorithms, chips, and more, and all of these are topics that Brilliant has fantastic courses on if you want to become an engineer building cool stuff yourself, or if you're just curious about how the world works. They have courses like regression and classification for understanding large amounts of data, or courses like programming with Python, which helps you do stuff with the data, or even courses like circuits, which helps you grasp how electric equipment actually works. All of them are designed so that they take big complex topics and break them down into their fundamental building blocks, which you can learn and then practice right away with interactive exercises to make sure that you really understand and remember. This interactivity is not only an extremely effective way of learning, but it's also just way more fun than passively absorbing knowledge. Brilliant covers tons of STEM subjects from math to science to computer science and more, all with this interactive approach and beautiful animations. To try Brilliant for free, visit brilliant.org/TFC, scan the QR code on screen, or you can also click on the link in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription if you choose one. Happy learning, and I'll see you next Friday.